Welcome to the Roar Mindset, Leading Through Chaos. I'm Peter Brandenburger, and I help leaders embrace chaos to turn disruption into an advantage. Each episode brings stories and strategies to help you stop fighting disruption, lead with clarity, and thrive in uncertain times. I'm joined by Diallo, an innovation strategist, system thinker, and founder of Inspire and Aspire. Over the past 3 decades, Usman has worked across global technology, research, and leadership, including nearly 20 years at Intel and leadership roles at EPFL in Switzerland. He is also the author of The Cognitive Revolution, Navigating the Algorithmic Age of Artificial Intelligence. As I read this book, I found myself thinking much more about people than AI. In this episode, we explore leading in a world of AI and what it means for us as leaders navigating its challenges. We discuss how leaders build trust, care for people, make better decisions, and preserve what makes us fundamentally human as technology accelerates around us. Usman introduces a practical way of thinking about these challenges through system thinking, emotional intelligence, strategic foresight, and anticipatory governance. He brings these ideas to life through stories of transforming struggling global programs, building trust across cultures, and leading with genuine care for people. I really enjoy this conversation, and I'll share a few reflections at the end on what stood out for me and how you can apply these ideas to your leadership. Enjoy. Welcome, Usman, to the Roar Mindset Podcast. Glad you can be here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad I can be here today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this conversation, especially after listening to your book, as it definitely sparked a lot of thinking, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But before we jump into that, let's start off with what matters most to you these days as a way of having people get to know you a little bit more.
That's a very good question. So nowadays, I just started my company about a year ago, Inspire and Aspire LLC, and I try to work with leaders and companies to bring them a sense of resilience in this age of artificial intelligence. So you see, with the acceleration pace of artificial intelligence and the linear pace of our institutions, a lot of people feel lost in this in this age. So basically, what I try to do is bring them clarity, calm, and momentum, and then enable them to build resiliency in their businesses so that they can evolve as the technology evolve. And that's what I've been trying to do. I want to help them solve their problems, see better clarity in their problems, and so that they can address their problems the proper way. It is what the company needs and what the leaders need, and how can we resolve and address their issues the right way, in a way that is convenient for them, in a way that is appropriate, and in a way that will address their need and build resiliency in this age of acceleration.
Nice. It's a very large initiative as far as all the things that have to be tackled to make that happen, to make it resilient and to have people, have that clarity and moving with more ease. And
it is, but if you look at my life and how I went through different companies and different experiences, I've been a system thinker from the get-go. This is what I learned from my parents. This is what I learned from my uncles, my dad, my mom, my aunts. They've always been system thinkers, thinking about problems from the top all the way down and looking at what are the interconnections between things and how can they address those, and how can they anticipate the ripple effects, second order effect, third order effects, so that they can build solutions that will be resilient from the get-go. And unfortunately, I didn't know that I was a system thinker till later on when I discovered system thinking.
One thing I've noticed in your readings and looking on some of the things you publish as well as your book, you talked about the cognitive revolution, or in the cognitive revolution, you talk about, how things are changing with AI and so forth, a person. How did that come to be?
That's a very good question. Actually, the thing is that my dad is a physician. My mom is a teacher. So basically, if you look at those two disciplines, it is about people. It is about bringing the best for the people and making sure that people get the best out of whatever we are in. So basically, this is how we've been raised. We've been raised to care about people. We've been raised to give to others, to desire for ourselves, for others what we desire for ourselves. And then, so basically, that's why the emotional intelligence components becomes so important, because you need to be able to put yourself in the shoes of others, understand what are their aspirations, what are their challenges, what are the things that we are going through. And then when you understand that, then it becomes easy to understand them and then see what we are trying to do, and then be genuinely connected to them so that they know. And this is why it's so important. So this is, like I said, this is coming from my background, but it is the way we've been raised and the way we've always evolved. And this is what I try to bring to leadership, that I try to bring to whatever I do. Connect genuinely with people, understand people, try to know their aspirations, their motivation and everything. To me, human being is the most important asset in any organization. So basically, you need to unleash that potential. And in order to unleash that potential, you have to be genuine and know them, and then know their aspirations, know their motivation, and know what ticks for them. And then so that they know that you genuinely care. If you fake it, they'll see through it immediately. You cannot fake that. You have to really care. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So this is why that component of emotional intelligence is really, really important. Pairing system thinking with emotional intelligence becomes so important. And this has been the basis of how I've worked. Later on, you bring other a component to it, which is like strategic foresight. Strategic foresight is about looking at the horizon and looking at what kind of signs are there, what are the weak signals that are there, and then seeing those weak signals and see, can you look at that and see the potential futures that can come out there? Then you do scenario planning where you look at all the potential futures that are there, because it's very difficult to predict one future. Mm-hmm. However, if you look at from the worst case scenario to the best case scenario, you're going to probably fall somewhere in between. So basically, if you look at those scenarios, then it becomes very easy to predict a potential of futures so that you are not wrong when you do things, because you have looked at the worst case, you have looked at the best case, you have looked at cases in between, and you have made plans based on those cases. And then when you fall somewhere, you're like, yes, I just need to take this and then adapt it based on the context that I'm in, and then just move with it. So you're not surprised. That's where the resiliency comes from.
Yeah, it's interesting, because when I was reading your book, I see it as the opposite. Clarity happens only after you start moving and experimenting and finding out what the heck you want to do. So this notion of, looking into the future and trying to predict things, I feel like you can't predict it. And I think what you were saying here is you can't predict which one, but you can look at different scenarios so that, one way of looking at it is that you're more prepared for what could happen from best case to worst case. It's really the power of adapting when you're in there, or being prepared for, things are going to happen. Things are going to go, something's going to happen, something's going to move faster than you did, a competitor's going to come in, a team's going to change. In my experience, that's what usually happens, is whatever you thought was going to happen didn't happen. And so you just be prepared for it and be able to adapt. So I'm wondering how that fits in with your notion of strategic thinking.
So actually, what is sure is that the constant is that there's going to be change. That is the constant. That is always going to be there. So that's why you look at different scenarios, then so that you're not surprised. First. Second thing is that you have to be adaptable. You have to be flexible so that you adapt to the context, because you may look at the different scenarios in a certain context, and then the context completely flips on you, and you need to be able to fit in the new context and everything. That's why if you're prepared with enough things, then when the context change on you, then you adapt, and you're flexible. You adapt, and you say, okay, this is the context, then I didn't consider that, then let me add this to this. And then it's not going to be a seismic shift. It's going to be more like a adjustment that needs to be done. But because you have done the work already beforehand, then that work will help you to adjust based on the context. But in one of the things is that you have to be able to anticipate anything that can happen, because things will change on you, and seismic flip can happen also. If it happens, just go from what you know and build slowly upon that. My dad used to say that intelligence is the ability to recognize what you know in a given situation. Basically, if something comes, you quickly identify what you know. And then from there, you start building. This is why we go to school. We go to school to problem solve. Problem solving is building upon what we know slowly and slowly and slowly until you get to the solution. Most of the time, what we do at work, we have never seen some of the problems in our life, but we identify patterns that we know about. And then we start building on those patterns in order to get to the solution. Eventually, we come to something great. And this has always been the case. So it's the school, going to school and all of these things give us the methodology in order to do all of these things. And then through experience, we learn, and then we learn these things, and then we start building on this. The more you have experience, the more background you have, the easier it is to recognize what happens in a given situation so that you can build on it. And this
I
is
like that pattern
case.
recognition. You've talked about your upbringing. So humans are made for pattern recognition. So that's what our brains can do.
So you can see how system thinking, emotional intelligence, and strategic foresight go hand in hand. Now, if you go to the policy level, the thing that get added to that is anticipatory governance. When I saw AI and all the things that AI was bringing, that was not the time when I started thinking about the problem of the pace of AI versus the pace of our institutions. I started thinking about that since the time I started at Intel in 1995, because I saw the pace of technology from that go. This is a problem that I've been thinking about for a very long time. So I always said, technology is going so fast, and then how are we going to deal with this problem and things like that? So I've been thinking about it. AI is just accelerated the pace to in an exponential level. So the problem is still the same problem that existed from a long time, but it's just that it's getting a booster, like a fuel to make it like a rocket. And this is really what is happening. So it's not a new problem. It's a nation problem that has existed from the past, and that has just gotten boosted.
I like how you talked about the history of some of these, changes and ages, and how those have come to be. So yeah, I see how that has persisted over time as well.
Yes, and then you can see in the agrarian age, in the industrial age, in the digital age, in all of those revolutions, the patterns that were there. This is the same pattern that you see in the cognitive revolution of AI. However, the main difference is the pace of the revolution. The agrarian revolution took tens of thousands of years. The industrial revolution took about 200 to 300 years. The digital revolution was like 40 to 50 years. And the AI revolution is going to be 5 to 10 years. So the pace is a problem.
The pace is relative to our lifetimes. I don't know if you're familiar with Yuval Harari's work and on the history and ages, because he goes through some of these from a historical perspective, which is very interesting. When it's hundreds of years, that's multiple generations. When it's 5 to 10 years, it's like not even your career. It's a flash in your career. The AI revolution would have happened 3 times since I left school, which means if this pace continues, the amount of relearning, unlearning, and relearning, and I've really been thinking about the unlearning piece of this. It's like what has gotten us to here isn't going to get us going forward, as that saying goes. And so what you've been doing as a leader for the last 5-10 years may not help you at all in the future. Although I do think coming back to human relationships, those are still very fundamental and won't change because we're still dealing with other humans, at least today. There's some fundamental underpinnings that our experience can rely on, but maybe how we do it, how quickly we can assimilate and understand that we're we're on a different course and noticing that more quickly, and then deciding what to do, taking action instead of reacting, which
Yes, this is really the fundamental issue, that the pace is creating something that we are not used to, and then in order for us to be able to deal with this, we have to move at the same pace. We have to think at the same pace. And then it means that a lot of the learning, so the fundamental learnings are there, because sometimes in order to deal with some of these things, you need to really have some fundamental understanding. But like you said, the learning and the unlearning and and then trying to deal with this becomes really important. That's why in the book I discuss about the future of work and the future of education associated to that work. So basically, what becomes constant is that the learning become constant. Before, we used to go to school and then you learn and then you come and then you start working and then you don't have to learn a lot. You just learn enough in your career that you're okay. But now the learning has to be part of the work itself. You have to learn all continuously learn, because you're adapting at a much faster pace. So basically, that continuous learning becomes part of the jobs that we're going to do in the future. And this becomes really important. That's what the pacing problem brings. But the second thing that actually is very different from this revolution is not just the pace, but is also the nature of the revolution. Before, all the revolutions that happened were mechanic revolutions to increase the means of production and all of these things. This revolution affect cognition itself. Artificial intelligence make better artificial intelligence. It's just the cognition itself is being affected, and you can see that the productivity that it can bring, is a lot, and then if used properly, but also with the productivity that it brings, if you make a mistake, also the mistake is really well amplified. Yeah. So you really need to be careful, especially with all this hallucination and everything that I discuss in my first book, The New Nexus, and the future of information discovery. And so basically, you need to be aware of these things so that you address those issues. And so it's going to be a lot of adaptation, a lot of learning from us, because we have not seen yet the extent of this revolution. We have not really, we're just scratching the surface in this in here. And that's why it is so important that as we are today, we have to set up governance systems in place in such a way that we can deal with this. Because the problem is that if you don't put those governance systems in place properly, what will happen is that it will be disastrous. So in the book, I talk about the culinary dilemma. The culinary dilemma is very simple. It is like we bring technology and then we start using the technology, then it get embedded in society. Then all of a sudden we realize, my God, we brought so many wrong things here and so on and so. We start to devise laws and policies in order to deal with those issues. So that will work if the technologies are going at a slow pace. But when the technology is going at a high pace, all of a sudden, by the time you devise something, it's already obsolete. Yeah. So that's why we talk about anticipatory governance. Make governance system in such a way that you can move the governance system with the technology itself. So that means designing the technology with governance in mind from the get-go. That may mean sandboxing some of these things, then testing it, and then seeing what are the potential ripple effects that exist, and then be putting governance system in place so that when it is deployed in the broader society, then you already have something. It is about where strategic foresight in governance becomes so important, because strategic foresight in governance will enable us to look at the potential futures. And if you look at potential futures, then we can govern those potential futures in a better manner. Otherwise, we'll be really surprised. Yeah. I mean, we'll be really surprised.
That's such a different way of developing and releasing technology compared to the way software was delivered. You you get it going, and like the Scrum model or whatever, you just get something out there and you iterate it and revise it as it's out there. And if you're doing that now in this age, I like that idea of sandbox, but that's a significant change to to a big chunk of almost all industries, I'm guessing, of how to go do that. And yeah, I like that anticipatory governance. I think one of the questions is, how as a leader can you take these four lenses and apply them to what you're doing? What can leaders do for their teams for these things?
So this is, first of all, for leaders, they have to understand where they stand in their businesses, in their companies, and see where are we today, what are we trying to accomplish. Because the way I see AI being used, and the way I see it's the same way as we saw the dot-com boom. Anybody who had a clear strategy, clear vision, and they wanted to do something, they brought the internet in. It just amplified their business and made them a stronger and more competitive. Anybody who was not standing on anything and then brought in a dot-com just basically got money to do because of the money that was easily gotten from the venture capitalists, they all failed. So AI is going to be the same thing. Anybody who has strong strategy and then know how to implement AI in the proper manner in their workflows, in their businesses, those people are going to strive. Anybody who doesn't have any idea what they want to do and all of these things, they bring AI, is just going to amplify the problem, and they're going to fail. AI is an amplificator of whatever you do. That's why it's so important that we deploy it properly and sensitively. And we don't have to forget one thing. It is about us. It is about us human beings. It is about our values. It is about our aspirations. It is about our togetherness. It is about everything that makes us fundamentally human. And if we have that in mind, then whatever we do, and then we put that up front, if that get amplified, it is for the benefit of everyone. If that get shut down, it is for the detriment of everyone. And this is where we have to see it. That's why the four lenses work so well together. Then in the book, I discuss why emotional intelligence become a strategic piece. Because AI cannot feel affection. It cannot feel sadness. It can simulate those feelings that we have, but it cannot feel it. And
there's a lot going on in our communication that's nonverbal, and even in the tone, but the energy flow that's going on between, and the visual information is just immense. And yeah, that's not at least getting transferred today with AI.
Exactly. And actually, I was the other day, I was in Morocco. I've written several applications of the book. The first one was about Stark Jarvis solutions. In the Avenger movie, how Stark used Jarvis and all of these things. And then the second thing was about the update of the EU Act and why that was the right move. And the third one application was about healthcare and AI, what I call the desperation algorithm. I was moderating this panel about this, and some of these issues came. And then so one of the professors, Professor Sufi, on the panel, is a surgeon. Robotics is one of the people specialized in robotic surgery in one of the top hospitals in Africa doing that. And he ask bluntly the questions to the audience. Who would like to go to a place and AI observe all of your things and give you a prescription, and you go and get that prescription without any human intervention? And this is really the thing. Nobody would do that. And then basically he gave a case of someone who in France who put their symptoms inside the AI, and with the results of their exams, and AI said the person had cancer. The person panicked and had a panic attack and heart races and all of these things, and just had a heart attack and died. Meanwhile, the person didn't have cancer. So you see why it's important for human to deliver such news, and for the human to be in the loop, to understand the context, to understand everything, and then come and deliver the news properly in such a way that people can get it. So this is really something that we need to take care of.
Yeah.
That the human factor is so important in this age of AI that we have to really, really take care of it. And we have to have that human in the loop. And that human in the loop has three conditions. So when AI make a decision, human has to be close to that decision, close enough to understand why the decision is made. The AI decision has to be completely transparent so that the human know exactly why AI has decided what are the confidence level in that decision. Two, the human has to have the authority to change that decision based on the experience that they live and all of these things. And three, the human has to be to have the time to step back, think about it, because we're accelerating and we're going at a fast pace, but we have to sometimes just slow down, step back, think about it, and make the appropriate decision. If these conditions, three conditions are fulfilled, then the human is truly in the loop. If it's not, when any of these conditions fail, it means that the human is just an observer.
Yeah. Why not just let AI go experiment and then change it if it's wrong?
So the whole issue is that if you look at our institutions, I take the case of healthcare, is that the system itself is so overwhelmed. So if you look at the global north, America, Britain, and all of these developed countries and all of these things, you see that there is a big problem. If you want to see a primary care physician in the US, it takes an average of 26 days. If you are in a rural area, most of the clinics are closed. And then in order to see a primary care physician, you have to move to a place to basically travel an average distance of 10 to 11 miles to see a primary care physician. And if you want to see a specialist, you have to travel a distance between 50 and 60 miles in rural areas. You take Britain. There was more than 7 million people on the NHS waiting list for care between 6 to 18 months. That's the global north, where there are a lot of doctors and things like that, like the doctor to patients about 1 to 300 or so. You go to the global south, where the ratio of the doctor to patient is about 1 to 3,000. And then the infrastructure don't even exist. If you're in a rural area, you need to see a doctor, you need to travel to the big city. And that entails a lot of cost of traveling, cost of living in the big city, cost of seeing the doctor, cost of doing the exams and all of these things. So basically, in the meantime, if you type your symptoms into AI, in less than a second, you have the answer. Where do you think people will go?
Yeah, exactly.
So basically, this is the main problem. So in that case, are you going to be reactive or proactive? Because when you have the pain right now, you're going to be proactive. You cannot afford to be reactive. So this is the issue. So that is in healthcare. In a lot of domains in society, this is happening. That's why the proactivity is there. And then we have to be proactive in establishing the right governance systems. If you're not proactive in putting the guardrails today, we are going to regret tomorrow. And this is what I have been advocating in my writings.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked about the four lenses a little bit, and maybe tell us some about stories of how these came to be, and like what is your experiences, and things that went well or didn't go well that kind of formed these lenses for you.
Like I said, I've been a system thinker from the get-go, and the emotional intelligence by caring about others, and that has been the values that have been instilled on us since the beginning. And then when I work at Intel, then the idea of strategic foresight and scenario planning and things like that, then I started learning about it because I used to run TSLURP, the Technology Strategic Long Range Plan. First of all, I participated in program managing the TSLURP topics. Then later on, ran TSLURP completely when the original person that was running it left the department, so it was given to my manager and I ran it. So that's when I started thinking about strategic Foresight. But when I was writing the book, I said, listen, there is something that is missing on the policy side. What is the equivalent of strategic foresight in the policy side? What is the closest to it? Then I made some research and discovered anticipatory governance from the work that OECD has done. And then basically, I always wanted to include that policy side because it becomes so important, especially in the societies that we are in. So that's how the four lenses came about. So if you look at my career, the last job that I did at Intel before leaving was the international program manager at the Intel Fellows Office. And basically in Intel, we had about 80 to 90% of the revenue coming from outside of US. Meanwhile, 80 to 90% of technologists at the highest level were in US. So even if you had to do a company to company engineering meetings, you had to rely heavily on the technologists in the US. So basically, in the fellows office, we thought that we could take the opportunity to use the fellows to help accelerate the development of technology leaders in India, China, Malaysia, Europe, and all of the external geos, so that those people, if they are at that the level of technology, then they are in the same region, the same cultures, the same time zones, and they can deal with the customer problems and things like that. So that was the whole idea. I was hired as program manager, and I came in and I found that a program that was on life support and that was dying. The first thing was to try to understand what is happening. Then I went ahead as a system thinker. Then you start thinking, okay, what is going on in this system? What are the patterns? What's going on? So you start identifying the problems. Second thing is that emotional intelligence was so important because people did not trust each other. So let me put it this way. Before me, the program was given to someone who had another job, and that person was just an added function to that person, and that person didn't have time for it. So basically, naturally, there was distrust from India and China, because India program was alive and then China program was about to start, but it was really not getting anywhere. So if the person that is run the program is not available, how are you going to trust that person?
Yeah.
So if you look at all of these patterns, you're realizing that there is a fundamental problem that is here that you need to solve. So in order to solve it, you need to first gain the trust of the people. So this is what I tried to do. So before, when I first came, people wouldn't come in the meeting. Will be 30 minutes late, 40 minutes late in a 1 hour meeting. I will sit in a meeting waiting for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and we come, we get the 20 minutes that we could leverage, and then do whatever we can and go. So I realized that there is a really big problem here. We need to solve this. But I didn't want to blame anyone. I just said, I need to understand why this is the case. Then I said, okay, there's a trip coming to India. I'll go there and then I'll see what happened. When I went there, the first thing is that I sat down with them, and from the technical leadership pipeline leader to the India site leader to all the leaders of the different organizations that are there, and just discuss with them, and then told them what my vision is. They didn't have to trust me with that vision because they have been burned before.
Yeah.
So, in the Eastern culture, one of the most important things is to build relationship first. So we went and we ate together. We ate lunch together, dinner together, and discussed about our families, about our aspirations and all of these things. And that really enabled trust. And there were some little things that I did that were very little in terms of changes, but that were very immense for them. So what used to happen is that we used to have the meeting in the daytime in US, which is nighttime in India. So I told them, listen, I don't want to do that anymore. You guys are more than me alone. So I'll put the meeting in the daytime for you and nighttime for me. It's much easier for me to deal with that than you. And that actually built a lot of trust.
Yeah.
Because they start saying that, yes, this person cares about us and we cares about that we want to be, he wants us to be there. Little thing, but makes a big difference. So those kind of things, they really, really helped establish the trust with us. And every single thing that I said to them that I would do it. And they start believing in that. We had the strategic mini conferences in the US that was attended by only principal engineer and senior principal engineer, engineers and fellows. And I start connecting these guys, grade 8 and grade 9 in these, so that we can get the networking with these people, the principal engineers, senior principal and fellows here. And then I started plugging them into Tisler, and we start presenting it from, so it's just a lot of things like that. And I started organizing some mini conferences in the regions. In Europe, I started one mini conference in Europe, one in India, Pakistan, and India, Malaysia, and China. And I brought in a lot of fellows to those conferences and everything. And then they start seeing that what I said I would do, it was really genuine.
Doing it.
And then out of the few years that I was running, I was in Tisler, 4 international leaders led Tisler topic in 5 years.
That's great.
So they saw the exposure, they saw what we were doing. The fellows would be there and we're living with them 2 months every quarter. And they start seeing the difference. And they start seeing that we cared. And that made a big difference. And that established the trust. And then we start getting results. So the program went from a life support to a fully sustainable in 4.5 years.
That's great.
And everyone was surprised. This is, so it's just taking the same lenses that I've been talking about. These are the things that I use in order to establish this. And then, like I said, this has been part of what I've been doing the whole time. So the values that I was raised with. And this is why it was so important to implement this way. So that's why I say again and again, you have to be genuine. If you're not genuine, people will see through the crap.
Yeah, genuine is right. And what comes to me is, how did you keep these young or early lessons that you got? How did you sustain this?
So basically, whenever I talk to my dad or my family and everything, they always reminded us about some of these things. And then my dad used to be a very deep thinker and everything. And then the lessons that he taught us when we were growing up has always been there. And plus, I'm Muslim. And then if you study the values that Islam bring, and then which I've been continuously doing, it is exactly the same thing. It's always about the people. It's all about religion. Basically the Judaism, Christianity, Islam, the monotheistic religions have been always advocating for these things. Every day, these things are around you, so you know. But you go to a culture like Intel where it's a rank and rating, and then it's everyone for himself and all of these things, then you're like, my God, this is so contrary to everything that I've been taught and everything that I've done. So it becomes difficult. So you learn to cope with what is there, meanwhile doing the things that is right. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you don't advance. What matters is, have you done the right thing? If you can live with yourself,
Being authentic.
then you're okay. You know, today I'm in touch with some of the people that I managed in the past, and up till today they tell me, Usman, you know, you've been the best manager I had. So this is the reward.
Yeah. I'm also curious, how many continents have you lived on? And from all of that experience, what lesson do you bring from all of that to leadership?
I was born and raised in Mali. And before my 18th birthday, I came to US to study. Then I lived here for 25 years. Then I moved to Switzerland. And my wife is in Switzerland, so I joined her there. And then I lived in Switzerland since 2014, so about 12 years now. And meanwhile, I used to go to India, Malaysia, China, twice a year from 2007 to 2012. I try to study their culture and understand what they're about and everything. What it teaches you is that, first of all, we we are all human beings. We all have the same aspirations. We want the best for our families. We want to have good friends. So our aspirations are the same. Our values may be little different here and there, but if you look at the overall thing, it's all about the same. And then basically you just have to adjust to the cultural context that you are in. So if you are in leadership, you have to really, really care about the people. What is a leader? A leader is someone others follow. If you don't have followers, you're not a leader. If there are no people to follow you, what are you leading?
It's a very good reminder to folks. You have this title. That doesn't mean you are a leader. It's great when they're not your direct reports or they're not your team. Are those people following you and are others? And are you listening and engaging with them?
Exactly. Yeah. And then so basically understanding what are their problems, what are their motivations, what are their aspirations, what are they trying to do. Understanding that, genuinely putting them in situations where they can be successful in what they're trying to do. If they feel that you're doing that for them, no matter the result, they will know that you care for them. That's why I say human beings are the most important asset in an organization. And this is an asset that is extremely difficult to manage and extremely difficult to deal with. But if you can deal with it properly, asset will do marvels for you.
Yeah. And have you observed behaviors or things that people need to unlearn or do less of that would hinder them being this full leadership from the four lenses we've been talking about?
Yes, it's a lot of time it comes toward the emotional intelligence part, where people do not understand context and understand people around them and understand the situations, and then they cannot put themselves in the shoes of others in order to see things from different perspective and so on. So basically, when people tend to be centered around themselves, around having their own ego and all of these things, then yes, it is going to affect everyone because they are not being able to see the whole picture. You can have an individual performance that is great, but in the context of the team, if it doesn't make the whole team better, then it is a loss. It's like local optimization versus global optimization. Sometimes you have to let go of some of the local optimization in order to get the global optimization that you want to reach. That's why you have to put systems in place. You have to work within the system in order to get ahead.
Just to make sure I'm clear, the system here is like the overall like if you're a leader, it would be the organization, your customers, your stakeholders, like the whole system of people that are involved as well, right?
The whole system of people that are involved and what you are trying to accomplish with that system. So it is the whole thing. I give you an example. When we're doing chip design, at the same time we're developing CAD systems to support that chip design. The objective is to get the chips out the door in such a way that there's high quality, it is on time. So how do you do that? Then you work with people. So you have the design team, the logic design team, the circuit design team, the physical design team, the CAD team, the architecture folks, the validation folks, and all of these things. So you're dealing with all of these people together. Everyone has their own little system to run their things and things. But eventually, there's going to be handoffs between these systems. So you need to manage that handoffs in such a way that you chip on time and everything and with quality. So early in the project, you have your system, then you work with others and then work with them in such a way that you can figure out all the kinks in the system so that you remove those kinks. So, because at the end of the project, there's going to be a lot of pressure. So if you still have the kinks, then you're dead because you're not going to go anywhere. But if you remove those kinks from the get-go and you go through these iterations until you figure it out, then at the end, when the pressure comes, you don't have to think about that aspect because that's already worked out.
Yeah, getting those kinks out, like very proactive too. It's not reactive in that you deal with them when they become really big a week before you have to tape out. You notice them and you address them. And what I often say to people is you turn towards it. You don't ignore it. You don't push it away. You don't explain that it's just a small thing. When if you can turn towards it and be with it and have that difficult conversation, when it can when it's early on and when you can get it resolved. So then later, when you're about to tape this thing out, it just doesn't explode into something. And as you said, you're dead.
Exactly. Take that and then bring it at a policy level. That becomes anticipatory governance.
Yeah. Yep. For some leaders, they're working at the organization so they can go, or just with their stakeholders, and they can go do that anticipatory work. I see that connection.
You have to think in systems. You have to really care about the people that are in the system, because we are your most valuable assets. And you have to really try to predict, try to see what are the potential futures so that you are prepared for them. And finally, you have to put systems in place that enable you to be successful in these things. Because if you put the right system in place, people will try properly in that system.
Yes. Well, thank you. A couple of questions as we wrap up. What gives you hope right now?
Oh, I believe in us as human beings. I believe in our values. I believe in our humanity. I believe in what we stand for. And basically, this race is a race that can adapt, that can learn, that can go forward. I believe in that. And when adversity comes, we stand up to it, and that gives me hope. That gives me hope that we are going to do the right thing, even in this cognitive age of artificial intelligence. We'll be doing the right thing by us. It's not going to be easy. It's never easy, but I have hope that our humanity will prevail.
Yeah, that's great. And what is the one leadership lesson that you keep learning again and again?
It's all about people. It's about people. It's about us. It is about our values. It is about our aspirations. It's about our togetherness. It is about our humanity. People are the most important asset in an organization. You really need to unleash that potential, because that potential is unleashed. This is not a thing that we cannot accomplish. But if that potential is buried, then you bury a lot of things. That's what, unfortunately, a lot of leadership is not understanding today. With this cycle of getting maximum profit every 3 months and all of these things is unfortunately killing that. And meanwhile, if we were to just get that potential to unleash, we can get even much, much better than what we have today.
Yeah. Yes, I agree. And the last one, what's the one word that describes your leadership mindset these days?
I would say 2 words: emotional intelligence.
See why. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, and good luck in your endeavor. If people wanted to connect with you, what's the best way to connect with you?
Oh, actually, I have my website and I have my blog site, and they can connect, or LinkedIn, and they can connect with me. I'm on different platforms. I'm on Spotify. I'm on Apple Podcasts. I'm on YouTube. The LinkedIn and my website are probably the best ways to contact, or through Substack, my blog site on Substack.
Great. I'll put those links in, and also put the links into your books, at least probably the Amazon links. But
yes.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me. This discussion has been such a pleasure, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening to my conversation with Ousmane Diallo. 3 things stood out for me. First, AI amplifies what already exists. If your strategy, values, and systems are strong, AI can help strengthen them. If they are unclear or your team is unhealthy, AI may amplify the confusion and misalignment. This starts with you as a leader and then extends to your team. Get the basics ready and healthy, and only then should you ask, what are you asking AI to amplify? Second, system thinking helps leaders stop reacting. Ousmane's story about fellow office stood out to me. He didn't start by blaming people. He looked at patterns, trust gaps, cultural context, and how the system was or was not working. Then he made small, meaningful changes that built trust and momentum over time. He managed the outcome of the system, not the one location or one person's goals. As you think about your next challenge, ask yourself, what system am I leading within? Where am I reacting to symptoms instead of improving the system itself? Third, prepare for multiple futures. Don't predict one. Strategic foresight isn't about being certain. It's about being prepared. When leaders consider multiple scenarios, they're less likely to be surprised, frozen, or reacting when conditions change. And they will change. One practical way to do this is through a premortem. Imagine you're a year or so into the future and your initiative has failed. Ask yourself and your team, how did we fail? Generate as many possible reactions as you can. Then ask, what can we do now to reduce those risks or prepare if they occur? You won't predict the future or control everything, but you'll be far more ready to adapt when it unfolds. Thanks for listening to Roar Mindset, Leading Through Chaos. Disruption isn't going away, but you can embrace it and turn it into an advantage. Until next time, stop fighting disruption, lead with clarity, and thrive in uncertain times.